you know, my name's Pastor Ellen, and I've got just an awesome privilege today to be able to interview the very wonderful, very talented, very beautiful, obviously, Sonya.
Hey.
So, hi Sonya.
Hi.
Are you okay?
I think so.
Brilliant. So, over the last few days, I've been chatting with Pastor Phil, and we were talking about the importance of our story.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking, you immediately came to my mind,
Okay.
because you've just got such an incredible story, and as you know from like the times when we've been on little walks together,
Yeah.
we've talked about not only, I guess, history, but we've talked about what God has been doing now.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes what people think about Christians. They don't know that God is actually doing something all the time
Absolutely.
and taking care of us. And so, in a minute, I'm going to shut up. And I'm going to let you just tell us a little bit about, how you, I guess a little bit maybe about your past, if, as much as you can say, and a little bit about sort of how you came to faith in Jesus, and then what he's done in your life since that point. So why don't we start off a little bit telling us maybe about, I guess, where you were born, just a little bit about, the background to you.
I was born in Mansfield, and my parents moved to Lockwood. And I kind of started, my dad used to read the Bible to me all the time. And it was lovely. We'd snuggle up and it'd be called his chair. And so we'd sit and read the Bible, and it's something I actually do with Brenda now at night time. Yeah. She'll say, "Mum, come sit on the chair and read the Bible." And I'm like, "Yeah, come on." So that's how it kind of all started. When my dad passed away, it was the one thing that I wanted to keep of his was this Bible. So I've still got it now. Then kind of just grew up, had Kyle, and then met who's my husband and moved over to here. But before I met him, I used to go to church in Lockwood, and there was kind of the only one church, and I'd take Kyle and get him christened. So he used to go to church quite a bit when he was younger. Then when I came over here, I found it all quite overwhelming. So I didn't quite know where to fit in. I didn't really know, because as I looked around, there was just so many different churches. And I kind of suppose I lost my faith a bit, and I kind of drew away from Jesus. And I kind of guess that it really wasn't until my husband suddenly passed away that there was obviously another hole. But so I started wanting to get back in touch again, start getting back into the faith. Again, just didn't know where to go, didn't know what church or anything like that. And it wasn't until a couple of friends of mine from school, Carmen and Jemima, they said that they come here to New Springs and that I should come along because it's absolutely brilliant and you'll love it. And then another friend, Kelly, she was saying, "Come on, should we go? Let's go." So she rang me up in the morning. She's like, "Are we going to go today?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we came in, and I was just so overwhelmed. The singing, the atmosphere, how friendly everybody was. And kind of it's from that point then that I turned and I realised that I felt really, really comfortable here.
Yeah.
So that's when I started getting back in the faith.
And I think would you say that that's when you started to, I guess, open your life up again to God? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and because it was quite interesting, wasn't it, when we talk about when you first, when you decided actually you wanted to start following Jesus.
Yeah.
There's quite a story there, isn't there?
There is. So I'd come to church, and then I'd have kind of a couple of weeks off, and then when I started to come regularly and started kind of committing, I was still at a low point in my life, grieving.
And how long was that after your husband had died that you started to come to church?
So he died in November, and it was actually the week before Easter.
Right.
that, so it was a few months.
So yeah, not long after.
Not long at all, no. So I was still in a hard grieving process, and I was really, really upset one day in the bathroom. And I just remember looking in the mirror, and it was as if there was a dark side and a light side, and it's as if God was talking to me and saying to me, you can follow me and you will get great things, you know, you will have a good life, or you can choose to stay on a path that probably isn't right for you. But it's that choice.
And that was the dark, just so clarifying.
The dark was
side and then the light side.
Light.
Okay.
And obviously I was just overwhelmed and chose the light side, and I think I rang you up actually.
Yeah, we had a whole conversation on the phone.
Yeah.
Didn't we? And we said we prayed together over the phone.
Yes.
Didn't we?
Yeah.
Because it was. I think sometimes we can actually be quite cautious when talking to somebody about following Jesus, because we know that it is a commitment. It is something that, you know, we want to encourage people to give their whole lives to Him and things like that. So
yeah.
It's so when we were on the phone, it was like, no, are you sure? Like, to pray, you sure? And you're like, yeah, I totally need to pray. We need to talk to God. I was like, right, okay.
So I remember being on my bedroom floor on the phone to you, and when we did that.
Yeah, that's incredible. So going back, or running a bit forward then, because obviously you got baptised, didn't you?
I did.
And you went through this whole process again of you know, telling everybody a little bit about your story.
Yeah.
And telling everybody, you know, before you know, got dunked, as you say, in the baptism pool, and you told a bit of your story. What about since that point? What would you say God has done since then?
Right, wow. A lot has happened. Where do I start? So I used to suffer a lot with anxiety. So I would worry about everything, overthink everything, and the anxiety would always take over. Since then, I've learned to speak to God and help me with the anxiety. So I've been able to deal with certain issues a lot calmer and more rationalised than probably I have done in the past.
I think as well, you were still dealing with grief.
Yeah.
Weren't you really? So, and having how many children? I tell everybody.
So there's 6 in the family.
6 in the family.
3 at home.
3 at home. So it's not that as though you just had to deal with the anxiety on your own. You had to consider.
There was different grieving processes for obviously different ages as well. So I was trying to get counselling for the children. Also, I did a course myself, which absolutely helped me in the grieving process. Also, how to put closure and shut doors that were from my past that I didn't need to deal with anymore.
Yeah.
So that was a massive thing, a great opportunity that I took. My son Logan, we finally got his autism diagnosis.
Because that was a real fight, wasn't it?
It was. I was having to, you have to keep going back to the paediatricians. You have to go through certain assessments, and it is a long process. And it was back in April we finally got the diagnosis for that. So which is great, because it means he's going to get all the support he needs when it comes to not just school, whatever school is now, but also transitioning into high school. So he will have the extra support for that, which is just fantastic.
And we've been praying about these things all the way along.
We have been praying, and it's as if these things are now coming easier to me, because in the past you kind of try to deal with everything yourself, and you get things wrong. But when you're praying to God and you're letting Him, and you're saying, please help me with this, what are the right paths I could be taking? And things come easier and it smooths out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I remember as well. We didn't we apply for you applied for a job at one point?
I did,
you? And it was through a friend.
Yeah.
In a local place, and it was like, it felt like it was the right time. And you went in for it, didn't you? And you applied and sent the application in. But then we prayed, didn't we? And we said, okay, Lord, if this is right.
Yeah.
open the door to the job.
Yeah.
And it didn't open.
No, that's right. And it wasn't the right time. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it was due to lockdown or something as well. And there was it might have been because I was having trouble with the house at the time as well. So
we're going to come on to that in a minute.
Yeah. Yes. It just wasn't the right time.
Yeah. But I think that was a wonderful thing in the sense because, and I guess what I want to pull out there is that we wanted to make a point of praying about that.
Yeah.
And inviting God into that decision.
Exactly, and
so
whether it was the right thing to happen or not.
And it just shows your change of wanting to do everything yourself to then saying, God, I want you to be involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And because it wasn't, I didn't successfully get that job or anything, it wasn't so much of a disappointment, whereas before everything I've had to do myself, and then it's been a letdown or, oh, here we go again, sort of thing. But it just wasn't a disappointment. I just had that faith that it just wasn't the right job or
and
the
I remember
right time.
talking to you on the phone and it actually being almost like a sigh of relief. Like, can you imagine if I'd have got that job?
Exactly.
And the difficulty that I'd be in now.
Well, and I think I probably, God was saying to me, you've got enough going on at the minute, Sonya. You don't need to be taking on a job when you're going through grief. And I think it was the house situation that I was going through as well, so it just wasn't the right time.
Yeah, so tell us more about the house.
Right.
We've got a lovely, whatever the story involves, we've got a wonderful end to it.
We have got a great end to it,
So
a great success story.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
So, the house that we live in, I rent it privately, and I've been in the house 12 years. It was agreed that me and my husband would just do the repairs as and when. When he passed away, I said to the landlord, I can't afford to do this by myself anymore. I just want to pay my rent, and can you just deal with everything else? The house became really, really cold and damp. So the windows, the curtains would be blowing even though the windows were shut. You'd have the heating on, but it wouldn't be warm.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting the council involved and the environmental to come out and assist and view the property. They said that there was category 1 hazards and they pretty much condemned the house because of excess cold and insufficient heating, because we'd have radiators that didn't work. And the landlord just didn't do anything. So I was able to go on the council list to be able to bid for properties. But because of Logan's autism, we needed 4 bedrooms as well, which made it a bit more challenging.
Yeah.
So the landlord there was improvement orders put on the property. He didn't do anything. It got to the point where the council put a suspended prohibition order on, which it was not fit to live in.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Explain what that means.
It means that it's not fit to live in, and they suspended it just purely so that I wasn't made homeless. So as soon as I was to move out, then it would be a prohibition order, and it means no tenants is allowed in there until any repair is done.
Yeah. And it was wonderful because all the way through that you were still asking God,
yeah,
where do you want us to live?
We would sit and we'd pray about it and talk about it as well.
Yeah.
And we would say, as long as the right house comes up for us, make sure it's suitable for Logan's needs as well, especially. Yeah. And so that we're just settled finally as a family.
And I think as well, in terms of the grief story, that it was quite a difficult thing to think of moving out of a house for so many memories.
Well, we'd been there 12 years.
Yeah, so it was just about you, it was about the children as well.
And it's the only thing that Brenda and Logan know. They don't know any other house.
Yeah.
So that was quite challenging to take on, to prepare the children that we have got to move. But again, it's as if the choice was made for me, because I did go to the council about it, and so it was as if God was saying, no, I'm going to make this choice for you.
Yeah.
It isn't suitable to live in.
Yeah.
Let's get you settled in a family home.
And it was so lovely to watch your trust grow.
My trust has definitely grown
over that time, in the sense of because I think there was a house that you looked at and it looked like it was perfect.
That's exactly right. There was a house just across the street and it looked perfect, and I was pretty much badgering the council saying, why is this empty? Why can I not move into it? And I kind of got my heart set on that house. But eventually a house came up, and and I went to have a look at it. I was very much like, oh, am I doing the right thing? But yeah, again, I just put my faith in God, and I was number 2 on the list actually for bidding for that property.
Right.
But it wasn't the right house for the other people who was in front of me. So that's where we are now, and we've just moved into the property last week.
That's like, so what I think what a massive answer to prayer, like
Massive.
all the way along. And something that that we've said to each other when we went out on a walk, and I think Pastor Philip said it as well, is, you know, how good has God been? God
has been absolutely amazing to me. Even when we moved into the house, the new house, it hadn't got any gas. So I was thinking, I've lived in a house that's been freezing for a year now. I think I can cope for a night. I didn't even put the heating on for 3 days because the house was so warm. But God has just been amazing to me. Especially since I've been baptised, my faith has just gone all in, and you know, I'll sit, and it's normally at night times in the night when I'll reflect and pray and ask God, well, thank God as well, but ask him, what does he want from me? What can I do to give back as well?
Yeah, and you feel that this is actually maybe a part of what he's asking you to do, to be able to tell the story. Because you said to me earlier on, you said, Ellen, there's a way that I really want to help round up the, you know, our time together.
Yeah.
And go ahead. Because you talked about God wanting to grow your confidence.
That's it. So it was just after we moved into the house. It was a couple of nights in. I was just reflecting, and I'm saying to God, thank you for this house. Thank you. And you know, what is it you want from me? What can I do? And then there was thoughts in my mind going back to when I was young, and I'd have all the confidence on. I was always the narrator in the plays, so I'd be on the stage talking the whole way through. And I remember how nervous I was talking at my baptism.
But you did great.
Thank you. So, and it came to me that it was the confidence that he wanted. And it's strange because when God speaks to me, I get like a really funny feeling in my tummy. And I got that feeling, so I knew he'd spoken to me about what he wanted from me. Yeah. And then, just yesterday, you ring me up and say, right, Sonya, I want to do an interview with you. Yeah. And I've not been nervous because my faith is there. Yeah. And yeah, it's just been great. So.
Well, I think as we draw it to a close, I think all we'd want to say, first we just want to thank God, don't we, for not just bringing you to us, because obviously we love you, but for bringing you to him and knowing how to do that, and just watching how you've grown and how he's taken care of you over this time. We're so grateful to him that he's done that.
Absolutely.
But also we just want to tell you how much we love you, how proud we are of you, and keep going for Jesus. Yeah, I think if Pastor Phil was in the room, he would say exactly the same thing. Keep going for Jesus. And we love you. We're really proud of you. So, this is Sonya. God bless everyone.